Welcome to this explainer. You know, when we hear phrases like detained or abandoned ships, it's super easy to picture a gloomy, chaotic mess out on the water. But today, we're going to completely flip that image. We're visualizing the surprisingly uplifting, well-oiled machine of maritime law that actually keeps coastal waters safe, clean, and financially accountable. Let's unpack the legal protocols that literally transform potential maritime disasters into highly controlled, safely managed situations. Here's our visual roadmap for today's explainer. We'll start with keeping the seas safe, then look at when ships get detained, move on to handling abandoned vessels, and finally, we'll figure out exactly who pays the bill.
All right, part 1, keeping the seas safe, and specifically, the overseer of the ports. To kick things off, we really need to establish who's actually keeping things in check behind the scenes. Under Section 310 of these Maritime Protocols, the Director General acts as the ultimate guardian of the coastline. Now, their job isn't just sitting back and reacting to problems. It's to actively ensure that all ports are successfully meeting their international obligations. They're constantly supervising activities. And if they sense even a tiny gap in safety, boom! They have absolute authority to call for information and pass immediate, binding directions. It's a totally proactive system designed to stop problems before they even start. Moving to our next scenario, when ships get detained. Let's look at the detained ship scenario.
So what actually happens when a ship breaks the rules in these carefully supervised waters? Well, Section 308 lays out a crystal-clear step-by-step detention process. The second a vessel violates protocol, it gets detained and surveyed. And what I want you to notice here is the absolute lock-in at steps 2 and 3. The ship is completely immobilized. You can't just pay a quick fine and sail away in a dangerous ship. No way. The owner has to pay all incidental costs and physically rectify the faults. Only after that hazard is 100% fixed does the vessel reach step 4, release. But Section 309 introduces a really fascinating special rule when it comes to international relations. If the detained ship isn't a domestic vessel, the government can't just quietly lock it down in the dark. They are legally required to immediately take a copy of the provisional detention order and serve it to the ambassador of the vessel's home country. By bringing that foreign state into the loop right away at the nearest port, the protocol guarantees complete transparency. Let's turn to part 3, handling abandoned vessels, or what we can call the ghost ship scenario.
Let's build on that and talk about ghost ships for a second. When a massive, empty ship just washes up or gets abandoned in coastal waters, it is a massive logistical nightmare. So, you might wonder, why does the central government take on this giant burden of directing agencies to handle these abandoned vessels under Section 311? Why not just leave them there?
Well, the crucial point is that they step in for incredibly positive outcomes. The government's written directions to these agencies are entirely about protection. Their intervention ensures immediate safety, it neutralizes direct threats to human life and property, and crucially, it acts as the ultimate environmental shield. They have to work rapidly to prevent the kind of catastrophic coastal pollution that a leaking, decaying ghost ship could easily cause. Of course, protecting the environment and mobilizing all those port authorities isn't exactly free. Under Section 311, any expenses incurred by the central government or agency stepping in to save the day, those legally constitute a direct debt due to the government. So how do they get their money back? Well, the law allows them to cleanly recover these cleanup costs simply by selling the abandoned vessel or its cargo. The problem literally pays for its own solution. Which brings us to part 4. Who pays the bill? Let's check out the priority ladder. This is honestly the most fascinating part of these protocols. When a ship is sold to cover its massive debts, who actually gets paid first? If we visualize this financial waterfall of maritime liens under Section 311, it is wonderfully humane. You'd probably think the government, having done all the heavy lifting to seize and sell the ship, would just take their cut first, right? But no. First priority goes directly to the crew members. Before anyone else sees a single dime, the master and crew get their unpaid wages, repatriation, and social insurance. The second priority? That goes to victims with claims for loss of life or personal injury. It's only after that human toll is fully compensated that the central government sits in third priority to reimburse its cleanup debt. It's just a profoundly ethical structure. So, far from just being a bunch of dry, punitive legal text, these maritime protocols form an incredibly positive, well-designed safety net. Think about it. From the Director General monitoring the ports, to forcing owners to actually fix dangerous ships, right down to prioritizing the wages of stranded crews over government debt. It's a beautifully constructed machine working tirelessly to protect the coastline. It really leaves you wondering, doesn't it?
The next time you look out at the vast, seemingly wild ocean, what other invisible, highly structured systems are quietly working behind the scenes to keep our world safe, fair, and clean?